Welcome to another episode of Chat Sports Talk, and welcome to 2023-24 College Football Bowl Mania. That's right, bowl season's upon us. We're starting to go bowling. That's all we're going to talk about is the college bowls. In case you haven't quite gathered, we're going to talk about the college bowls. And I'm going to break this down in a couple weeks, depending on the huge amount of games. I'm going to do like week one, which will encompass December 16th all the way to the 22nd. Only covers 10 bowl games. Now, no, the following weekend you'll see a huge increase intake of college games. I'll go try to do a little bit more bite-size sessions. So that way these videos are run too damn long. And I've been noticed recently my videos are starting to run a little bit long, especially when I try and do a quick recap and then give you my preview and predictions. So when it comes to these Bowl Mania, I won't cover them all until the very end of all the bowls, kind of go over quick snapshots of all of them. And with that being said, let's go ahead and kick things off on December 16th. That's right, Saturday. We'll have a slew of college bowl games. Some of them you probably won't care about. Some of you will, depending on if you're a fan of that school and or conference. So let's go ahead and kick things off with the Myrtle Beach Bowl between 6-6 Georgia Southern and 9-3 Ohio. So Sunbelt and MAC clashing out the campus of Coastal Carolina. And this is going to be a interesting game. Georgia Southern has backed into the bowls, losing their last 4 games of the season. So momentum's definitely not on their side. While Ohio's won the last 3 games to get themselves in here. But some would say probably not against some of the stiffer competition in the MAC. Especially when, your last game is against Akron. But it's going to be a nice game between the two quarterbacks for the Eagles. Brim, who has over 3,400 yards passing, 22 touchdowns, but he does throw a lot of interceptions in 16. Rourke, 2,200 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So passing aspect is not a big aspect of the Ohio offense. Running back wise, they're about the same with White for the Eagles, a little under 900 yards, 9 TDs, while Bangura has over 800 yards, 7 TDs. So it looks like these teams are virtually even when it comes to statistic-wise between the quarterback and running backs. So right now, the ESPN Analytics has Ohio favored by 55%. But Vegas has this Georgia Southern by 3.5. So it's one of these things you have to kind of figure out, okay, which one do you think will be more prepared? I'm going to go with the one that had a little bit more success towards the end of the season. They're not backing into this matchup, which I think could put them behind the 8 ball in terms of the competition. Georgia Southern's not going to be easy out, but I will take Ohio to win game 1 of the College Bowl season. Now next, we're going to head over to New Orleans for the New Orleans Bowl. Those will feature the 8-4 at Jacksonville State out of Conference USA taking on the local Louisiana Raging Cajuns from Sunbelt, who's 6-6. Jacksonville State got a waiver to come play in this game because they're still in their transition phase from coming up from SCS to FBS. So technically they're not eligible to be in the bowl game. But because of so many bowl games, they don't have enough participants, them and James Madison got the waiver. Now you look at Jacksonville State, towards the end of the season, they definitely did stumble towards the end. They're going 2-2. Losing in South Carolina, losing to New Mexico State. Both those games were close. And then you look at Louisiana, and they struggled towards the end of the season as well. The last 3 games are 1-2, and 2 of those games they could have won because they took on Southern Miss, lost in OT. Troy only beaten by a touchdown, and then they beat their in-state rival, Warhawks. So tail of the tape, Jacksonville State's Webb, only 1,200 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So he hasn't been a consistent player on the field. And for Chris, for the Cajuns, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Both these guys limited action. So it's really kind of hard to kind of pinpoint if he's going to be the focal point of the game moving forward. For the running backs, for the Gamecocks, Jackson has 860 yards, 7 touchdowns, while the Cajuns, Gabodi, almost 730 yards with 7 touchdowns. So eerily similar, even though Jackson has a little bit more yardage and a lot more carries. So we look statistically, they're kind of about the same for analytics. 53% for Jacksonville State. And Vegas has the exact same way at 2.5. Look at this one. Louisiana is definitely not the same team they were a couple seasons ago or even last year. That ship has sailed since Napier's out at Gainesville, trying to resurrect that program. But being at home, Louisiana will definitely make this one a little more of a contest. If you look at the tail of the tape of their past few games, in the last 5 games, I mean, they went 2-3. They could have been 3-2 or 4-1. So Louisiana is definitely going to make this a handful for Jacksonville State. But I have a feeling the Cages will not be able to cut themselves some chicken at all. And I think the Gamecocks will come out on top, edging Louisiana in their first appearance in the FBS Bowls. Next up, we're going to deal with a bowl game sponsored by Avocados for Mexico. The Cure Bowl out of Orlando, Florida. They're at FBS Mortgage Stadium, a soccer-specific stadium, being utilized for a football matchup between the 11-2 MAC champions Miami Redhawks take it on the Sunbelt runner-up 8-5 Appalachian State Mountaineers. This should be a dandy between these two programs and maybe highlight the group of 5 when it comes to them. As we look, Miami Ohio has just been rolling towards the end of the season. Of course, winning the MAC championship against Toledo in their revenge matchup. Struggling a bit. They had that game against Ball State where they couldn't do anything right, but still ended up winning by 2. And you look at App State, they had a huge run towards the end of the season. That stumble against James Madison where they actually beat the Dukes to eliminate their perfect season, but then ended up losing to Troy in the Sunbelt Championship game that wasn't really close. So both these programs are definitely flying high. Appalachian State had a little stumble, but I don't think it's going to interfere with them whatsoever, because analytics right now have them favored by 52.5%. So let's go ahead and look at some of the key players. Quarterback-wise, for the Red Hawks, Gabbert, 600 yards, 14 TDs, and 5 picks. Very consistent quarterback, makes few mistakes with the ball. For the Mountaineers, Aguilar, looks like 3,500 yards, 33 touchdowns, 9 picks. He has been a surgeon in terms of picking apart defenses. The ground game, Amos for the Red Hawks, 895 yards, 12 touchdowns. A huge factor is trying to get that Red Hawk ground attack going, and that's going to dictate a lot of what's going to happen with this game. And for App State, Noel, 834 yards on the ground, 5 TDs. So definitely a tale of 2 different offenses. One is going to ground you to dirt, and the other one is just going to strike you through the air. Which one's going to have a better game? That one's going to be definitely interesting to take. Like I said, the analytics has App State. The line right now is App State by 6.5. I too will go with App State. However, I will push back on the spread. I think it'll be a lot closer to 6.5. I would not be surprised if Miami is actually leading late in the game, and App State have to have a miraculous come from behind victory. But this should showcase both conferences in a positive light, and should be a really entertaining bowl game. All right, time to head out to Albuquerque, New Mexico for the annual New Mexico Bowl. This will feature the surprise 10-4 Conference USA runner-up New Mexico State Aggies taking on an 8-4 Fresno State Bulldogs from the Mountain West. Now, looking at the tail end of the season, New Mexico State had a miraculous run. There's no question about how well this team actually performed, taking on teams. Actually going into Auburn and beating them by 21 when they were definitely a double-digit underdog was a huge undertaking. Surviving Jacksonville State was no easy task. Neither was a close win against Middle Tennessee. They battled Liberty hard for the Conference USA title, actually going back, exchanging punches. Just something you don't really expect. You see two fighters going at it, just punching each other in the face, and both of them just eating it and just dishing it back out. But this is exactly what happened between those two. However, Liberty was a little bit better in that aspect, won their rematch. Fresno State backing into the postseason. They were poised to be heading to the Mountain West Championship game, and then they just kept losing, getting dominated by San Jose State. Couldn't find ways to beat New Mexico, and then get dominated by San Diego State. Losing those last three games took them out of the Mountain West Championship game and lands them here in the New Mexico Bowl. Like I said, against a very good New Mexico State team, who's led by Pavia, who has over 2,900 yards passing, 26 touchdowns with 8 interceptions. He's also the leading rusher with over 850 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground. So a dual threat quarterback this defense will have to contend with. For the Bulldogs, Keene, a little under 2,600 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, 9 picks. Leading rusher Sherwood, 876 yards on the ground, 9 TDs. They need to get back into form where these guys are the center of this offense. The defense definitely needs to step up because they cannot allow these type of things to happen. But unfortunately, their defense is even not that good. You can look at 2 other games where they won. They still coughed up 30 and 24 points. And you're looking at the lowest amount of points they coughed up was 24 in the last 5 games, and the most they coughed up was 42. So this defense is definitely a weak point in this aspect. New Mexico State has definitely exploited a lot of teams, generate a lot of offense, but they've also struggled against good defenses like they did against Middle Tennessee, only getting 13. But, and then scoring the next following week 38 against Western Kentucky, but then they also can give up the big plays. Look what they did against Liberty, coughed up 49. And the only close game that had that much points was against Western Kentucky, where they coughed up 29. So New Mexico State is susceptible to the big plays. Fresno's defense is definitely like it right now. The offense is out of sync, it seems like. The analytics right now has it ESPN by 54%. With the line in Vegas has New Mexico State by 3.5. So once again, this looks like kind of a pick'em game between these two, and I am torn between these. I think I have more Aggie fans here because they just have to go right up the road from Las Cruces up to Albuquerque. But I think Fresno State's going to try to look at something to try to rebound off of. I think they should be able to squeak past New Mexico State. I do believe this will be a high-scoring affair. I think over/under right now is 51.5. It's probably going to be more. It's probably going to be more like a 60 combined points between these two. I think defense is going to be out of the way, and it's just going to be the offenses around the muck. Or we can have the complete opposite, where the defenses show up and shut down the offenses, and we have a snorefest or slugfest, depending how you want to look at it. But I still think it's going to be a highly scored game. I wouldn't be surprised to be something like that Liberty game. But I think a little bit closer, more like a 49-42 type affair. But I will be going with the Bulldogs. Then we have to L.A. Inglewood, California to be precise, for the L.A. Bowl out there in SoFi Stadium. You'll have the 7-5 UCLA Bruins taking on the 8-5 Boise State Broncos. The Mountain West champions. And you saw what Boise State towards the end of the season. I mean, they had a huge victories over New Mexico and Utah State after stumbling against Fresno State. Big win against Air Force at the end of the year to get them into the contention. That three-way tie, where they end up getting picked along with UNLV into the championship game because of computer polls instead of combined winning percentage. Those conference wins, but that's the Mountain West for you. They were just way too much for UNLV once again. Ran out of points on them. As far as UCLA, they definitely struggled towards the end of the season. I mean, they got blown out by Cal that last week. Knocked off USC in Caleb Williams' swan song for a college football regular season. Got dominated by Arizona State. Fell victim to Arizona. I mean, they were a team of two halves. In the beginning of the season, they were doing really good, and then they just crashed and burned. It was like they burned out. So let's look at some of the key players here for UCLA. Moore being a starting quarterback, 1,600 yards passing, 11 TDs, 9 picks. Not the quarterback you want leading, it seems like. It's like every time he throws a TD, he throws a pick. So he wants to balance the equation. For the Broncos, Green, 1,700 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks. Almost a carbon copy. Green has a little bit more completions than Moore, but you're not going to be very far if that's what you're doing. Running back wise, Steele for the Bruins, 847 yards, 6 touchdowns on the ground, while Genty, 1,200 plus yards, 14 touchdowns. Can UCLA stop the Broncos' running attack? And that is going to be the key factor right there. And looking at past games, no. ESPN Analytics has UCLA at 58%. Vegas has it at UCLA -4. I don't think UCLA is going to stop the run. This is going to be a battle between these two. I really think that will be. I think it's going to be kind of like that Boise State-Fresno State game where Fresno State was able to outgun Boise State. I think that's going to happen towards the end. I think UCLA being a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit more talented. Like I said, maybe. We've seen UCLA struggle against Group of 5 members in the past and during definitely this season. So it's not going to be a blowout by the Bruins at all. I do think the Broncos will make this a close game, maybe closer than what UCLA wants, what Chip Kelly wants. Chip Kelly has he's good for half the season, not the other half. So I'm still going with the Bruins, but I'm very uneasy with this decision just because I don't think they can stop the run. And then the last game on Saturday we'll cover is the Independence Bowl out there in Shreveport, Louisiana. Will feature the 6-6 Cal Golden Bears taking on the 6-6 Texas Tech Red Raiders. Now I think this one's a little more interesting. Looking at the aspect, Cal went barnstorming at the end of the season. Took on Washington State, outlasted them. Knock off their heated rival, Stanford, and then destroyed UCLA to get bowl eligible. Well, Tech, they had 3 wins to get in bowl eligible, and then they got blown out by Texas. But everyone kind of saw that Texas game as a game more in favor for Texas to win than Texas Tech. So I'm going to take that game and kind of toss that one out. So looking at who we got going for Cal at quarterback has Mendoza, 1,400 yards passing, 13 TDs, 4 and 7 interceptions. Once again, a 2-for-1 thing, trying to balance the equation almost. And then for the Raiders, Borton, under 1,500 yards, 12 TDs, 7 picks. Once again, the quarterbacks are eerily similar. Everything goes to the ground when it comes to these two. Ott for the Bears, over 1,200 yards, 11 TDs. For the Raiders, Brooks, over 1,400 yards, 9 TDs. So Ott has a little bit better aspect, a little bit better running ratio because he has less carries and produce more. So that's definitely one thing you have to look at. Right now, the analytics has it as Tech at 59%. And Vegas also has Tech at -3. For me, it's which running game is going to set dominance in this matchup. Who can control it? But it's like which defense can limit the effects of the other team's offense. I think that's what's going to boil down to. And with the line at 3, I kind of agree with that assessment. I'm also uneasily going with Tech, but I can actually see Cal winning this game just because of the running backs. But I think these two young men will should have a decent running game. I would not be surprised if both of them were over 100-yard rushers. But I will still stick with Tech. Now it's time to transition over to Monday, December 18th for the Famous Toastery Bowl. If you never heard of it, don't worry. It's a one-year only bowl game. It's a one-year replacement of the Bahamas Bowl as they update the stadium out there in the Bahamas. So this will be played at Jerry Richardson Stadium, the campus of UNC Charlotte, or simply just Charlotte. And it'll feature the 7-5 Western Kentucky Hilltoppers taking on the 6-6 Old Dominion Monarchs. So another group of 5 bowl matchup. Should be entertaining, especially if you like these two programs. You've looked at how they both went in with a 2-game winning streak into the bowl season. Western Kentucky knocking off, edging out Sam Houston State, and then Florida International. But Old Dominion edged out Georgia Southern and Georgia State. The two teams are going through a massive losing streak towards the end of the season. And they also gave James Madison and Coastal Carolina a run for the money towards the end of the season. And look at some of the key matchups for quarterback. The Hilltoppers have Reed, over 3,300 yards passing, 31 touchdowns, 11 picks. And for the Monarchs, Wilson, over 2,000 yards passing, 16 TDs, and 7 picks. So definitely a little difference. Reed definitely a lot more successful in terms of passing, but I think Old Dominion kind of relies more on their defense to kind of make things happen. And then for rushing, the Hilltoppers, Young, only 460 yards, 3 touchdowns. So rushing is not really a huge takeaway when the Hilltoppers passing or the offense attack. And for the Dukes, Callaway, under 600 yards, 4 TDs. Same thing for them. But it looks like if you look at their offensive numbers, they're not very prone for huge offensive numbers. Their defense really kind of sets them up for short fields. But right now, ESPN Analytics have the Hilltoppers at 60%. Vegas has them, Old Dominion, at 2.5. Definitely a huge difference between those two. Because looking at the numbers, it definitely looks like Western Kentucky should be favored. They'll look a little bit more prepared offensively. I'm looking at the defense-wise. I'm going with the Monarchs and Old Dominion squeaking out a win against the Hilltoppers. Then we head to December 19th, and we'll head up to Frisco, Texas for the Frisco Bowl. They'll feature the 8-4 UTSA Roadrunners taking on the 6-6 Marshall Thundering Herd. Now the Roadrunners in their first year in the American were that close again to the American Championship game to make it 3 straight conference championship games in their first year in the American. So hats off to UTSA and the way that program's being run. The head coach is not going anywhere. He's not going to take any other those open positions to their major schools. So it's good for them. It's going to be a last hurrah for some of the players to kind of give a good showing for NFL scouts. we kind of overlooked this program a little bit. And we look how they kind of backed into the season. Roadrunners stumbled against Tulane. Defensively, the Green Wave handled UTSA quite handily. Turn over the offense, make the offense go 3 and out. It's kind of a one-sided affair, but Tulane could not get much going against that Roadrunners defense either, but just enough to get the victory. And for Marshall, kind of hit and miss Morse code. I mean, they got blown out by Coastal Carolina App State before edging out Georgia Southern. Then get shut out by South Alabama before outgunning Arkansas State to get into the bowls. So Marshall doesn't look very good coming in. Harris for the Roadrunners, over 25 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Needs get back into form, back to what he was against like South Florida and East Carolina and alike, where he's able to manage the game better than he did against Tulane. And for the Herd, Fancher with 2,100 yards plus with 11 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So definitely a easy guy to pick off, it seems like. Definitely makes some wrong decisions. For the Roadrunners, Barnes is leading rusher, a little under 700 yards with 6 touchdowns. Lee for Marshall, 1,000-yard rusher with 14 touchdowns, and this is going to be the Achilles heel for the Roadrunners. If you go at them with a quality running attack, they have a hard time stopping it. Look at the Army game. But it's if the offense can get back in the sync and redo what they did prior to that Tulane game and go after Marshall, they should have a better success. They tend to have better success against teams that are 500 anyways. Right now, analytics have them at 67%. And right now, the line has Roadrunners by 13. So they're looking for a blowout win by the Roadrunners. I don't think it will. I think Marshall's running attack will stifle them for a while until they're able to try to clamp that down and force Fancher to beat him with the arm. And then that's where things will kind of turn around for the Roadrunners. I think Marshall will have early success. It'll be a second half charge by the Roadrunners, making those adjustments needed to actually win. It will not be a 14-point, 13-point spread. I think it'll be a lot closer. If it is double digits, it's going to be 10. But I think UTSA is going to have a fight in their hands, but they'll still end up taking the victory. Then we over to Thursday, December 21st. And we head down to Boca Raton, Florida for the annual Boca Raton Bowl between the 6-6 South Florida Bulls taking on the 6-6 Syracuse Orange. Not really anything to really kind of say about this. Both schools had to win the last game of the season to get into the bowl games. The Bulls outlasted the 49ers. Just crushed them 48-14 to get in. And Orange had to survive the Demon Deacons 35-31 to get themselves in this position. So both of them did not look good through the season. Kind of hit and miss. Win, lose, win, lose. It was kind of a Morse code of a season for both of these programs. The Bulls had Brown throwing the rock over 3,000 yards passing, 23 TDs, 11 picks, while Schrader over 1,600 yards, 13 TDs, 6 picks. So definitely make some interesting decisions with ball placement that could put the team in the wrong position. For the running attack, Wright for the Bulls, over 750 yards, 7 touchdowns, and Allen, 1,000-yard rusher, 9 touchdowns. And that's going to be a key difference. Can Allen really control the line of scrimmage, control the pace of the game, give Schrader those short passing lanes that he's able to hit? And could receivers like Alford for the Orange find ways to get open and maybe get more touchdowns, just 3. But right now the analytics have the Orange at 74%. The line has the Orange by 3. If Syracuse can shut down the Bulls' passing attack and they can rely heavily on the run, I like the Syracuse in this one, but if South Florida is able just to pick apart Syracuse and put Syracuse behind the 8 ball, Syracuse has a hard time coming back, but they do have a decent defense. I mean, the only game they really got blown out in the last 5 was a game against Virginia Tech. Otherwise, everything else has been pretty close. And the most points they've given up was 31. That's the past 2 weeks. So if the defense can clamp back down to not allow that much, I think it can happen. Syracuse does have a good defense. They have a good running attack. That's 2 out of the 3. I'm going the orange as well. 3 points. I'm not going to push back that either. But I see Syracuse edging out South Florida. And the last game we're going to cover is Friday, December 22nd. Head out to Raymond James Stadium out there in Tampa for the Gasparilla Bowl. We'll have the 6-6 Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets taking on the 6-6 UCF Knights. As Georgia Tech kind of stumbled their way towards the end. I mean, outgunning North Carolina, blowing out Virginia, then get doubled up by Clemson, only to edge out Syracuse, and then their game against Georgia, which they took Georgia to the limit. For the Knights, bunch of hit and miss. They were outgunned by the Mountaineers. They edged out the Bearcats, dominated Oklahoma State. Got edged out by Texas Tech, only to beat up Houston to get themselves into this postseason. In terms of key players, King for the Yellow Jackets, over 27 yards passing, 26 TDs, 15 picks. For the Knights, Plumlee, over 2,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, 8 picks. And King definitely a little bit more consistent in completions with 219. So King definitely a better suitor for this one. And look at what they've been doing offensively the past 5 games. Definitely a way to kind of possibly foresee that the air attack by the Yellow Jackets definitely something you need to take into account. For the ground game, Haynes for Georgia Tech, over 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. And for UCF, Harvey, almost 1,300 yards on the ground and 16 touchdowns. That is going to be the game. Can Harvey continue to light up defenses on the ground and dictate how this game is going to go? If he can break out runs like he did against the Oklahoma State, he possibly could. But can King counter that in the passing attack? That could actually possibly happen as well. Right now, ESPN Analytics have UCF at 66.6%. And even Vegas favors UCF at 4.5. Georgia Tech definitely came on towards the end of the season. Definitely one of the games that no one probably thought they would win, especially the game against North Carolina. They're going to be a handful. UCF is definitely going to be easy out. I mean, just ask Oklahoma State how hard they were. Texas Tech had to come from behind to beat them. With that being said, I'm halfway tempted to go with the Yellow Jackets just because I think they're going to have the momentum on their side, especially how well they played against Georgia. I am still going with the Knights just because of Harvey and the ground attack. I think he's going to have another fine game. I think he may have another Oklahoma State situation where UCF just blows them out. But we'll see how this one plans out. But I definitely will go with UCF on this one. And there you go. Only 10 games to kind of go about because that's all you're going to get in the first little tidbit. Then we worry about next week's matchups, and you kind of see a slew of games next Saturday as well. More to follow when it comes to that one. And other video ideas I've been kind of pointing out there. I'll probably do something towards the end. Kind of do like an FCS style video in terms of what the playoffs could have looked like if they went FCS. You know, I kind of touched about that before, a couple other videos. So that's something I might bring up towards the end. And let me know what you think about these early games. Unless you're really a fan of some of these conferences or some of these schools, may not really watch them too much. Definitely will be some entertaining ones. I think the UCLA Boise State should be entertaining. Georgia Tech UCF should be another entertaining one. Even Miami and App State should be another good watch as well. All right, just let me know down below what you think of my picks, which game you're looking forward to as your favorite team in the bowl. Right down there, let's be kind, gentle with each other. Let's get these interactions going. This really helps get this video out. It really helps the algorithm boost the presence of this video. Also, a thumbs up really helps this video out a lot. Really helps the channel a lot to get more views on it. Another thing that can really help me out this channel-wise is go ahead and subscribe, especially stay to the end, listening to all my rantings and ravings or stumblings, and still watching to the very end. Go ahead and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, especially this time of year and you're looking to save money. What else is, better than free? Subscribe. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. Click that bell icon. Turn on notifications so next time I post any more content on my channel. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.